You're listening to Sports Psych Talk. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect any affiliated organizations or institutions. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're facing mental health or medical concerns, please consult a qualified professional. Sports Psych Talk does not accept responsibility for any actions taken based on the content shared. Reproduction or distribution of this podcast without permission is prohibited. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy today's episode.
Hello everyone, welcome to Sports Psych Talk, India का अपना sports talk show, and today we have Gayatri Bhushan with us. Welcome Gayatri to the podcast.
Thank you, Karan. Glad to be here.
Gayatri is a registered chartered sport and exercise psychologist with cases, and she also done her bachelor's in psychology from Delhi University, her master's from Gopal University, one of the popular sport university across the world, and currently she is the founder and the CEO of Mind Matter Performance Delhi. And recently I personally have seen the highlights where she were engaged with the football at Leh and Ladakh, providing consultation that far. So welcome again, Gayatri.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your introduction.
So today we will be going through, because you yourself are CPC registered chartered sport and exercise psychologist, and obviously that is one of a very specific achievement of any sport and exercise psychologist. So we will be discussing around what are the global routes are there, and registration licenses are there, and what is the scenario in India, and you will help our audience to understand it better, specifically the UK thing, or maybe somewhat Europe is there, and maybe if you know about USA or maybe other countries as well. But before I begin with that, all these questions, I would like to ask you if you can tell about your journey, your involvement in sports psychology, how you what led you to pursue career in sports psychology, and then obviously the lessons and registration in this field.
Yeah. Thanks, Karan. So a little bit about my journey is the fact that I come from a very sporty family. My dad, my uncles, my brother, my cousins, we've all been involved in sports. Sport was encouraged from a very early age in our family. My dad was a national champion. He used to run 800 meters. My uncle used to run. He still runs. I think the Airtel marathon, which is I think now the Vedanta marathon in Delhi. He's the one who's run the maximum amount, 19 times he's run the marathon. And this is going to be his 20th time that he's run the full marathon. So yeah, my whole family has always been into sport. And I started running really early on. I used to run 400 meters. And my journey was such that by the time I was 13, 14 years old, I realized that I was talented, I was good, but I could not handle the mental side of sport. I started getting very anxious. I started getting very stressed before competitions. I was hitting the timings during training, but could not convert that into competition. So having very supportive parents, my parents took me all over. We tried to look for a sports psychologist for me about 15 years ago. And unfortunately, we did meet 2 or 3 of them, but I could never get the output at that point, the output that I needed to pursue my sport. So unfortunately, at a very young age, I had to give up something that I loved very much. And I think my young mind decided thereon that I wanted to help young girls, young children like myself, because support is available. Support is there. Support is available. I did not have to give up the sport. That's something that stuck with me. And that's what I pursued post that. I started working very early on. I started working when I was 17 for the club that I used to run for. So hence I stayed back in India. I worked for that club for 5 years. From the time I was 17 to I was 22, I worked for the club alongside doing my bachelor's degree in psychology from Delhi University. So I pursued that. And then when I was 22 years old, I decided to go pursue my master's from Loughborough University. And the idea was always to do things in the right way. Unfortunately, our country did not have and does not have a licensing procedure. But my idea was always to do things in the right way, because when I was 13 and 14 and I went to visit psychologists, I didn't get the right help or the appropriate help that I needed. So the idea in my family and in my mind was always that to do things in the right, ethical, moral way. Yes, it took a lot of investment. It took a lot of energy from my family, from myself, a lot of investment. And I understand that not everybody comes from that place where they can invest that kind of money and that kind of time and that kind of effort. And I totally respect that. And we will talk about that, I think, later in your podcast. But I was fortunate. I was given the opportunity. I was given that platform. And hence, my journey took me to London. I worked there for many years. I worked for Chelsea Football Club. I worked for Brentford Football Club. But that idea, that nagging idea of the fact that why did I do this? Why did we invest so much money? Why did we invest so much time? Was the fact to help our Indian athletes and to help young children and young athletes like myself. And that's why we invested so much time and money into this. So that nagging idea was always there. And then after 6 years of working in the UK, I decided to come back. I decided to come back to the country and start my organization called Mind Matter Performance. And we started that about a year and a half ago. And hence, that's been my little story and my little journey so far.
Yeah, interesting. Pretty interesting, actually. That how you see the things unfolding in front of your own eyes when you were a little kid and trying to pursue your career in sports. Definitely, anyone who's passionate about sport, and when things don't turn up, you definitely go for seeking help from a psychologist or some other expert. And I can absolutely understand 10-15 years ago, there was hardly a few sports psychologists professionally working, freelancing outside, and it have maybe it have been slightly difficult for you to find that edge through the consultation, maybe.
Yeah,
definitely we'll continue talking about the other aspects as well, the aspect where somebody supported by the family, fortunate enough basically getting all those opportunities, and many athletes don't get that opportunity.
Yeah.
Even reaching to this idea 15 years ago, to me looks very fascinating, that somebody 15 years ago thinking about seeking a sports psychologist, actually. My second question to you, that we've been discussing, you yourself being very active about it on social media, talking the licenses, and I totally agree that we have to have a certain structure in the country, that will help not us as a professional in terms of the recognition which we may get actually because of certifications, but definitely ensure that we are well paid as well. I've seen
Exactly.
when you have some license certifications, and the organizations start preferring those people who are certified, who have experience, who have registrations, licenses, and on the same time you're well paid within the country. I'm not comparing India with UK at the moment, but this is you worked and you know how well these sports psychologists are paid. They may have almost similar kind of challenges. They have almost same and slightly different cultural angle to the challenges which we face. So how you look at this certification, licensing, international major certificates are there, some other the one body, International Society of Sports Psychology, is very popular. They have
Yes.
ISSPR, and then there are a couple
Yeah.
of BPS, British Psychological Societies there, cases is there. So give us step-by-step overview starting from UK, and we will definitely end up
Sure.
with India,
Sure. I think before I begin with that, Karan, I think what I want to bring to the forefront is that yes, I was given the backing and I was given the initial push to go pursue my master's from Loughborough University. It wasn't easy for me to go, but fortunately, I had the support and I had the backing, and my parents and my family understood what sports psychology was and the need for sports psychology. So that's something that I would want to put at the forefront. But beyond that, doing the licensing, doing things in the right way, doing things in the ethical way, I had to work very hard for that. I understand the investment that goes into it. I worked every single day in the UK. I got extra clients. I did extra work because I had to pay my own fees. I had to pay the money that came along with supervised experience. So I understand the effort that comes along with it. Yes, I did get the initial push, but everything was never given to me on a platter. So I also understand that it comes with a lot of effort. But saying that, our country today does not have a licensing body, and our country does not have any lawful registration which protects the title of a sport and exercise psychologist. Um, Around the world and globally, if we look at countries like you mentioned, like the UK, Australia, Canada, America, all of those places, it's unlawful to advertise as a sport and exercise psychologist if you don't have the appropriate registration or the appropriate licensure. It's like calling yourself a doctor and doing medical practice when you don't have the right qualifications to do that. The harm and the damage that we cause, not only to the athlete, but also to the profession and also to the reputation of this profession. Like you said, a lot of people don't take sports psychologists very seriously in our country. A lot of organizations, a lot of big sporting institutions say that, yeah, we tried a sports psychologist, it didn't work. Our athletes don't really engage with one because it doesn't work. Because if we're employing a sports psychologist that's not gone through the pathway, it took me 9 years to finish my education and then call myself a sports psychologist. If someone is doing a bachelor's degree in any subject and doing a 6-week diploma and calling themselves a sports psychologist, imagine the harm it's not only causing to our athletes, our sporting institutions, but we're also making a little bit of a joke of our profession itself. You've put in a lot of effort to be sitting where you are today. I've put in a lot of effort to be sitting where I am today. So we cannot misuse this title, is what I talk about in my posts and what I talk about in a lot of these podcasts. Fact is that if we are using a title of a sports psychologist or a sport and exercise psychologist, there has to be an appropriate pathway. Otherwise, please use the right titles. Use the title of a mental skills coach. Use a title of a performance psychologist. Use a title of a sports psychologist consultant. But be very fair to the profession so that it's respected and it's given the respect that it deserves. A doctor, a surgeon cannot call himself a cardiologist. That will be extremely damaging to not only your patients, but also to the profession. So use the right titles is what I say. Now, if a life coach starts calling themselves a sports psychologist, it not only makes a joke of our profession, but it also causes damage, like I said. And that's where it connects to the pay aspect of things.
Yeah. So actually, I also want to add what you were talking about. I absolutely agree. But Gayatri, I think, when we talk about licenses, registration specifically within our country, we also, I think, need to understand that it is not the fault actually, it is not the student's fault. It is not that when I was studying my master's in sports psychology from GNDU, and I was like absolutely, because this was the first professional degree they started. Before that, I think one university they had this sports psychology degree going on in their institution, but I'm not aware. It was not really popular. So what happens, that there are differentiation between the professional course, where you focus more on the skill building through your internships and postings. That was there in my curriculum as well, where I was posted within the university sports department and health center. And in the health center, but we were not aware of how is there any license. I have seen RCI, but I don't fit for RCI. So when there is no license, how you go? And there are many actually. I'm the one. But there are numerous actually. Nowadays 6-7 institutions are there, and almost 20 students almost every year from each institutions getting their sports psychology degree and getting passed out. And they are going to come to the field and going to work as well. But when there is no license within the country, how you justify, somebody getting registration from other country and our country do not provide? I want you to, give that insight as well. And we also have to discuss the, 1, 2, 3, BPS cases, whatever HCPC. ASP as well. But I want to add a little insight here. What do you think about it?
Yeah. So what I think is I completely agree with you. It's not the fault of the individuals, not at all. We're all trying to make it. We're all trying to follow our passion, our dreams. And it's not the fault of the individual. It's a systemic error here. But the only place where I feel the individuals can be accountable is the fact that use the right titles. Use the title of a performance psychologist. Use the title of a mental skills coach. And then advocate for it. But if we, the younger generation, continues to be using the wrong titles. Now, I've spoken to someone lately who had a little bit of an argument with me. That individual had done a bachelor's degree in counseling psychology and a master's degree in counseling psychology. Is it fair for her to call herself a sports psychologist today? It's, again, damaging the profession, is what I'm trying to say. My point is, use the right titles. Because no one will take us seriously globally. No one will take us seriously in our country, and no sporting institutions. There will be that pay issue always if our titles are not respected. And this is going to catch up, is my point. So we need to start advocating for it. We need to start talking for it. Senior sports psychologists like yourself, like me, who have now completed my registration, completed my licensing, we need to advocate for supervision. We need to come together and talk about what we should be doing, what we can take to the government. Not easy at all, 100% not easy. But if we're all on the same page that we want this for our country, and if 10, 15 of us do things in the right way, we have senior sports psychologists in this country, unfortunately, who are using the title and who know it's absolutely incorrect. It's absolutely incorrect to use it without supervision, without supervised experience. And if they are encouraging it, if they are employing people who've done their bachelor's degree and giving titles of sport and exercise psychologists to those individuals in their organizations, it is incorrect. So we need to take accountability. Again, I come back to the point, it's a systemic error. But what can we do as individuals? Should we be employing individuals who've done a bachelor's degree and give them titles of a sports psychologist in our own companies, in our own organizations? That's where I question them. Today, fortunately or unfortunately, I have a lot of work coming into my organization, which I'm losing out on. Why? Because I do not have the right individuals. Am I going to be employing individuals who've done a bachelor's degree? Yes, I am going to be employing them, but I'm going to be giving them the right titles, the right experience, the right internships, and the right jobs, and the right pay. So there has to be that differentiation, so we start doing things in the right way. That's my only point. I empathize and I sympathize and I want to work. Why have I come back? I had a very cushiony life in London. Why did I come back? I came back because it's high time that we start advocating for it. I'm again saying it's not easy. It's the fault of the system. But what are we going to do?
There's a glitch, actually, We know that glitch from the Matrix. So, there is a glitch, and maybe, but sooner or later, we will see some uniformity. Definitely, I have to give more empathy because I have grown up in this system, studied here. A lot of challenges. I have on my own story to tell sometime. Maybe people ask me.
100%, yeah.
But definitely, this is but I know the Indian Medical Association is there and doctors are there. One of my friends done some MBBS from China and coming back, and then a lot of struggle. Basically, run your degree from China, your degree is valid or not in India. That is the challenge. That type of system we have to have as well, where we are setting up standard for ourselves, but on the same time, I think we are like setting up a system where if somebody go and study abroad, they also have to come to the same system, prove their worth, going through registration,
100%.
local license. Yeah. That has to be there, because
100%.
This is going to
I
be,
totally agree with that.
This is going to system which is going to be applicable on each and everyone, and it will happen actually. And I sniff something is happening, but I don't know what is exactly happening. Something is there.
Exactly.
So when I connect with the professionals like you, like you're very vocal about it, you're very confident, you're putting up your own things. And obviously there will be some contradictions also, that happens in the professional, among the professionals as well. Challenges are there. Sometimes, people agree on something, they disagree on. That will keep on going. So tell us about you, like how you prepared for this case, how you gave this idea, okay, I need to go, and it is a globally recognized, BPS and, cases. How you prepared for it. And I think we also need to reconnect this. Remember, actually, I'm just after 10 minutes. So you have 10 minutes to, continue.
Sure. Sure. So your point there, where individuals coming back from the UK or coming back from America, Australia, and coming into India and practicing, I totally agree with that. We might get the best practices from the West, but if they do not connect with our population, it makes absolutely zero sense. So that's one point that you brought up, which I completely agree with. We also need to be held accountable that are we able to take the best information, but actually put it in practice in our population, which is key, which I think is a great point that you brought up. I totally agree with that. So my journey, like you said, I went to Loughborough University. A Loughborough University Masters is a 1-year degree. I completed that. But unfortunately or fortunately, till the end of my degree, we were not given the information that after a master's degree, you're not allowed to practice. We were never given that information. That's what a lot of people are confused about. I think on our last week we were given the information that after your master's degree, you hold no such qualification of being a sport and exercise psychologist. And that's when we were introduced to KCs, and that's when we were introduced to BPS and the licensure pathways. So that was a little tricky for us, that after completing 1 year, we realized that we were not qualified enough to practice in any capacity. In our degree too, there was no supervised experience. It's very theoretical. It's like we write a few papers, a few practical experience, give a few tests. We do not have any supervised experience during a master's degree at Loughborough University. So we have absolutely zero supervised experience. So my point being that individuals who are also doing their master's degree from Loughborough University should not be calling themselves sport and exercise psychologists, because I can be sitting here and accounting for the fact that I had zero practical experience and zero supervised experience when I completed my master's degree from Loughborough University. Yes, we did a few role plays. Yes, we did have a few interactions, but no client interactions happened at my master's degree at Loughborough University. So that is something that I would want to put out there, which a few people get confused by, that how a few individuals are practicing when they do their masters abroad. There was zero practical experience. Moving forward, to answer your question, a sport and exercise psychologist title is protected around the world globally in countries like Canada, UK, Australia, the US. I'll be talking a little bit about the UK title. So one pathway is known as the Chartered Association of Sport and Exercise Sciences. It's a body where you do your undergrad degree, then you do a KC's accredited master's degree. So my undergrad degree, my bachelor's degree from Delhi University was accepted over there. Then I did my master's degree from Loughborough University. And then you require at least 2 years of supervised experience. So that is the pathway that the Chartered Association of Sport and Exercise Sciences follows. So with the British Psychological Society, which is also known as the BPS, you have to have a graduate basis for chartered membership, which is known as GBC. So that is basically obtained by completing an undergraduate degree, which is recognized by the British Psychological Society. And then after that, you can do a master's degree again. And then again, minimum 2 years of supervised experience. So individuals usually take 2 to 4 years to complete their supervised experience. It depends on how quickly you can do it, how much work you have, how much practical experience you have, and how much time you have along with full-time jobs, because individuals are usually paying for this by themselves. So they have to be working on the side to be paying for these degrees and these licensures. So it usually takes 2 to 4 years to complete. And since 2019, the title of a sport and exercise psychologist has been protected by a regulatory body called the Health and Care Professions Council. So it's called the HCPC. So if individuals are using the title of a sport and exercise psychologist in the UK without being a registered HCPC practitioner, you will be sued for it and it will be considered unlawful. It's going against the law. So that is what the scenario is in the UK. I'll talk a little bit about what is the scenario in Australia and the US and Canada. I have not studied there, so please excuse me if I'm giving information that might not be accurate. But after my research, this is what I have understood, that in Australia, it's fairly similar to the UK. All psychologists are registered with the Psychology Board of Australia, which is the PBA, the Psychology Board of Australia, which protects the title of a sport and exercise psychologist. Over there too, you have to do an undergrad degree, a master's degree, and minimum 2 years of supervised experience under the Australian Psychological Society, which is the APS. So that's the case in Australia, which is similar to the UK. In the US, there is the Association of Applied Sports Psychology, which is the AASP. The idea is to become a certified consultant with the AASP. So how you do that is to become a member of the association. You have to have a doctoral qualification in sports science or psychology and have completed set coursework for the certification. And you need to undertake at least 400 hours of mentored experience in sports psychology. And then you get to register with the American Psychological Association, which is the APA under Division 47. So that's a little complicated. You might have to read a little bit more about it. But again, supervised experience is also very, very important over here. And similarly in Canada, which is the CSPA, which is the Canadian Sport Psychology Association, you need to have a master's degree in sports psychology. You need to complete a list of accredited courses and then have at least 400 hours of supervised experience to call yourself a sport and exercise psychologist. So in all of these countries, there is a code of practice, there is ethics involved, whether it's with the KCs, the BPS, the APS, the CSPA, there's all a code of conduct that is involved. And the bachelor's degree or the master's degree is just the beginning of this journey in all of these countries. I hope that explains a little bit. I know a lot of information, but I hope that explains a little bit.
No, it explains very well actually, because I have myself gone through, this information long back actually, 15, 16, and I've gone through it was AAASP at that time, then they became applied.
Yeah.
Association of Sports Psychology. Sorry. They have their, certifications, membership thing also. But now they call it CMPC, I guess. I don't know what it is. Yeah, something like that, mental performance consultant type of thing. I had their membership. I used that membership for 1 year. Then I didn't discontinue. Same with ISSP.
Yeah.
I took the membership. I discontinued. I prepared for ISSPR, but I was like, India, my country don't want to do any registration from abroad. Then why should I,
Yeah.
spend money actually? If I'm able to, I got a job actually, one of the reputed institution in India, was working on the payroll, working with the top athletes. So my thing was like sorted. I saw myself very sorted. Okay, I do not need registration. But they didn't ask me for a registration license.
Yeah.
So we don't have one. So I didn't do any actually. After that, I'll be like, okay, no. I see a lot of interdisciplinary angle to my practice. I have a lot of XYZ knowledge here and there, and I am a big, sort of the team asset where a lot of the other people are working, like physio too, biomechanist, nutritionist, physiologist.
Yeah.
So I see myself fitting in that, somewhere in that frame.
Yeah.
Very easily, because with the interdisciplinary knowledge helps you a lot actually. When you see, okay, the psychological angle is there where performance is not happening, but you are able to see, okay, there's other angle, this guy was a walker, 20-kilometer walker. He was like, sir, I walk, 6 or 7 days I train, and after 6-7 days, he start experiencing pain in the back, and physio be like giving, therapy and all. I'm not saying that, that physio not working properly, whatever he was doing with same athlete. He sent that athlete to me, and for a psychological consultation. I was like, why you are here? Like, why physio sent you to me? He was like, sir, he just simply sent. He asked me to go seek a psychologist, because physio thought it is more psychological. I started asking him, and then if there is any emotional, psychological, this, that, life, your family, a lot of things, relationship with the coaches around, how it goes basically in interviews. He said, everything is okay, no problem. And I was from somewhere, I asked him a question, do you know, we have biomechanists, have you ever met a biomechanist here in sports science? He said, who's biomechanist here? We have biomechanist. And he was like, I don't know the biomechanist actually. And Ajay and me were staying together actually. We were a room partner. We used to share a flat. I took his name in the podcast. Probably he will be watching. So, anyways, it is, we have this, We can take the names as well sometimes. So I took him to the biomechanist, and biomechanist asked him how many pair of shoes you have. He said, I have almost 10 to 12. You know, the walkers and marathon runners, they have multiple shoes because they have to,
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
never use new shoes, new pair of shoes
Yeah.
in, in the events. They have to use all of them, keep them ready, and something like that. So he said, okay, bring all shoes in this biomechanics lab. He brought all the shoes. So Ajay took the shoes and he started looking in the bottom of the shoes, all the shoes. I was sitting there watching what he's doing. He said, actually, you need a insole. So this athlete was like, sir, how much it will cost? So said, it will cost you 50 rupees. They go to that guy who make the shoes, counselor sitting maybe somewhere outside the Army Sports Institute. Tell him to give you this type of material. Bring it that material for me.
Yeah.
He cut that and made a sole for him.
Yeah.
Insole. Gave that insole to him, and the pain was gone. So, anyways, why I'm telling this story is this angle. I have my maybe interdisciplinary angle. There are other experts as well. They talk to me. They are also willing to basically go through whatever exams or whatever rigorous restrictions are. I think it is good actually. They started giving a thought to
Yeah.
it. We must acquire
Yeah.
it actually and present
Yeah.
ourselves competent. When we will sit among our colleagues, you are there, people are there, so we will be more confident. We'll see. We are also the same at the same level, the same licenses and registration. It gives you the confidence. So, Gayatri, since we are talking about UK a lot, actually now you were there. We have discussed almost what are the basic licenses, registration processes are there available with the different type organizations, Australia, UK, USA, and Canada, and they may have a almost similar type of the eligibility criteria to know how to apply type of things. So coming on to the Indian route, actually, you are now practicing in India after studying and even working. Your supervised experiences from UK, and you brought that angle to India, working in Delhi. Let's discuss the Indian route. What regulatory bodies are there? Do you
Sure.
see any organization governing body? Though we have already, I think, slightly discussed a little bit about it. So what do you think about? Do we have to have a state level? Do you see that possibility that Delhi State Sports Psychology Association, or maybe Punjab State Sports Psychology Society, or something like that has to be created
Yeah.
in the future? Those all are connected with, and then the district level,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, firstly, the scenario and the system in India, there is no central statutory licensing body in our country. So there is no body that protects the title of a sports psychologist. So the legal definition of a sports psychologist does not exist in India. So in terms of clinical, where we have RCI, there is nothing for performance or sports psychology. So using a title of a sports psychologist, anyone around us can do that. Anyone in this country can do that, and they will not be sued for it. So that is the scenario in our country as of today. There is no system and there is no governing body. To answer your question, do states require it? Bodies, yes, 100% states require it. But according to me, there has to be a central body to begin with. We have to start from a top-down approach, where there has to be a central body, there has to be a system or a licensing body that comes into place, which is equal across the board for our sports psychologists in our country. And that's what I believe we need to start with. There has to be a framework that has to be put into place. There has to be ethical guidelines and policies, practical guidelines and policies that need to be put in place before we can call ourselves sports psychologists in India. And that has to be uniform across the board. It has to be uniform for me, for yourself, for anyone who practices in the country. There has to be a framework that has to be put into place.
That is what we have discussed. We have discussed that there has to be some professional body, looking into professional practices, and uniformly setting up a sort of license system for register system for all of us. Coming on to the
Hmm.
qualifications and the training requirements,
Yeah.
what qualification, educational qualification or supervised experience or clinical hours generally required actually in India, since we don't have it. So I may not ask
Yeah.
you what Indian scenario is, but uh,
Yeah.
what about UK? How many hours you spent studying your
Sure.
masters and then your supervised experience?
Sure. So also I want to just before I come to that, I also want to just point out that a lot of individuals have pointed out to me that registration, licensing, they all, our country is not ready for it. But what is licensing? If I ask you, what is licensing? Licensing is basically supervised experience. And individuals say that you don't understand, you've done a master's degree abroad. I had zero supervised experience in my master's degree abroad, doing it from the best university in the world. I had 0 hours in my master's degree. After I completed my master's degree, I had 0 hours, and not even 1 hour is what I'm trying to say. So there is no difference between me coming back from abroad and calling myself a sports psychologist and calling yourself a sports psychologist over here after doing a master's degree, because I had absolutely zero experience and zero practical hours. India
Yeah, but
might even have that. Hmm.
yeah, so Gayatri, actually, nowadays I totally agree with you here. If your course is like, okay, there is no supervised experience is included, I think the curriculum which I have seen right now, they have 6 months of this mandatory supervised, sort of practice during their master. Last 6 months, what they do, they go for their project, and at the same time, they are posted in Sports Authority of India or maybe some other sporting organization. How you look into this initiative of universities providing some practical exposure while they are studying?
I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I think kudos to India for doing that. Nowhere in the UK, I don't think you'll be able to point out a single university in the UK that does that. So kudos to India for doing that. 100% total support. But is that enough? My answer will be no. More than what a master's degree is doing abroad, 100%. But is that enough to call yourself a sports psychologist? My answer will be no. But 100%, a master's degree in India might be giving more experience, practical experience, than a master's degree in the UK is giving as of today, if that's what is happening. Because in my experience, I have written maybe a few practical papers and given a few tests and done SPSS and done a few role plays, but that is about it. That's the extent to what I've done in my master's degree. So for individuals who are calling themselves sports psychologists after doing their master's degree from Loughborough University, I'm sorry to say, but we did not have any practical experience. A role play cannot be considered a practical experience. So kudos to India for doing that, Karan. And to just
Yeah, actually.
continue to answer your, yeah, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
why I'm mentioning this here, I think it become important for me since I'm doing this podcast on
Yeah,
licenses and particularly and supervised experience. We discussed about the courses in UK, your exposure to the courses and the supervised experiences, and how you see okay when you get to know, and your reaction to that thing where you found that okay, you won't be able to call yourself sport and exercise. Like everyone want to call themselves, I finished my degree. Why I just can't call myself? Why I've done my degree? And you must have this resentment actually with the university. But then maybe they gave you this idea. This is what we do in UK. This is what you have to follow. Go through the supervised experience, and then you would be able to call yourself. Maybe not 2 years, but in India, at my time also now the syllabus has improved a lot. Actually, lot improvement is there, because I'm telling, because of myself, one of the board member where we talk about syllabus every year with one of the university, Central Government's University. So we discuss the syllabus and we make sure that syllabus is of international standard, and
yeah,
they make necessary changes in the syllabus, and supervised experience is part of it. And one
yeah,
another thing is, like, institution like National Sports University, that university is itself of a it's a sports university. All their most of their students are playing sport either, and while they are studying, they are also experiencing as a sportsman, and they are
yeah,
on the same time they are provided this opportunity to consult or maybe talk to the peer group, or maybe go and talk to other sportsmen from the same university. So
yeah,
that kind of environment is there. Uh, uh, but I know how different, how better it is, how bad it is. Then if we start comparing with Labbro actually, only you people can tell, you were there. So I know,
Yeah,
the kind of standard Labbro have globally. Nobody can simply deny that, somebody
yeah.
getting admission over there and getting degrees from there. Yeah. So I think,
Karan, we also need to respect the fact that Loughborough University is providing a master's degree. They never said they were providing supervised experience. They never once in their curriculum said that they were going to be providing a supervised experience in any capacity or practical experience in any capacity. So I think we need to respect the boundary and respect what every course or every accreditation or every licensure is giving us over here, and we need to act accordingly. I'm not saying that the UK system is the best, it's far from it. No system in the world is today 100% at par with what it needs to be. There's a lot of improvement in every system. But again, we need to be talking about it like we are right now. And I think that's what's going to bring about the change.
we have if we have a course where they are providing us degree, along with the certain, it is called 6 months, but we are involved in a project on the same time. We are just partly available on the ground. So I certainly agree with you, until or unless that course is recognized by a professional body, maybe in that,
Exactly.
but still you need a supervised experience after your master's. Go,
Exactly.
if you organization does not provide, academic institution does not provide you, you may go seek that supervised experience under somebody who have that registration or license already. uh,
Exactly.
Once we will have that license, maybe in future the Indian license I'm talking about, then you can easily go and pursue your supervised experience.
Exactly.
Somebody who have that, the license of Indian governing body. So
Exactly. So
calling,
licensing is basically just supervised experience. So it's nothing
yeah,
complicated, it's nothing
yes.
fancy, it's just supervised experience.
Obviously, when you do the license, is it something
Hmm.
related to your continuity of your professional development, or
Yeah,
CPD thing,
yeah, yeah.
how are you think about it?
Yeah, to just adding on to your last question where you had asked me my hours and what my hours look like. So if I have to just give you a brief of what my hours look like, there was a minimum of 3,200 hours of activity, which was minimum 400 days of activity that I had to take part in supervised experience before I could call myself a sport and exercise psychologist. So this was made up of 2,700 hours of application and consulting, 275 hours of CPD, and 225 hours of dissemination and citizenship, which is more about paid or voluntary work that you take part in. So, out of those 2,700 hours, 900 hours had to be direct contact with clients before you could even register to be an HCPC registered sport and exercise psychologist. So, this was direct client work as a trainee sport and exercise psychologist, either in person or virtually. When you talk about CPD, at least 50 hours is spent with your supervisor, whether that's through observation, whether that's discussions with your supervisor. So at least 50 hours have to be spent with your supervisor, and 225 hours of dissemination and citizenship, which is activities, whether paid or voluntary, that involve transferring of knowledge about the field of sport and exercise psychology, whether that's teaching, whether that's learning aspect of things, doing workshops, doing seminars. So all of those hours need to accumulate to 3,200 hours before you can even file for your HCPC, which is Health and Care Professions Council registration, and then call yourself a sport and exercise psychologist when you get that license. So yeah, it takes minimum 400 days to do that. And to continue answering your question about CPD, I think CPD for me also today is so important. I take part in regular supervision. I am still in touch with my supervisor. I do group supervisions. I do individual supervisions. You have to keep up with latest research and techniques. Like I said, I can't pick up the best practices from the West and expect them to work with, say, underprivileged athletes in India. It will not work because what I'm doing in the West does not have to work with the same population in India. So you have to keep evolving. You have to keep evolving with the population you're working with the environment that you're working with, the latest research and techniques. So whether that's mental skills training, that's performance enhancement strategies, that's the neuroscience aspect of it. So we have to stay current, like you said, reading those articles, watching those podcasts. You have to remain current because the world is moving at a very, very fast pace. Our athletes are evolving, our organizations are evolving. Like you said, what India was 15 years ago, you can't even compare. So to stay in line with the latest research and techniques is one thing that you have to consider while you're considering CPD, which is continued professional development. You have to maintain competence, whether it's the ethical aspect, the legal aspect, the technical aspect, the assessment tools that you're using, the interventions that you're using. Are we in line with the ethics? Are we following the ethical aspect of things? So I think maintaining competence is 100% key. How we're dealing with athletes, if they're underage athletes, if they're athletes who belong to a certain population, how are we actually acting as practitioners is key. I think the safety, welfare of clients here comes into play when we're dealing with clinical issues. I think it's very important for us to understand the boundary of our profession. If I'm getting someone, a client who's going through major depression, and we need to be involving a clinical psychologist into this or a psychiatrist into this. So we have to be very wary of the boundary of our profession. Yes, I might be able to deal with an athlete who's going through depression, but is that correct on my end? I have to involve a clinical psychologist or I have to involve a psychiatrist if that goes beyond the boundary of my profession. So that is also something that we need to look at. I can work hand in hand. I can work hand in hand with a clinical psychologist and a psychiatrist, but we need to maintain the boundary of our profession, and that's where safety and welfare comes into play. And again, that's CPD. And I think the last part that I would want to touch upon is the changing context. Teams are changing, sport is changing, cultural sensitivity when I'm working in India is very different to when I'm working with my clients in the UK or when I'm working with my clients in the UAE. The gender norms, the sports science is very important. It introduces best practices. So whether that's through formal courses, workshops, seminar, conferences, podcasts, supervised practice, continue your supervised practice. Even though I'm an HCPC registered sport and exercise psychologist, I still continue with my supervised practice because there is no limit to what I can learn today. I'm just starting off. I have a lot more to learn, and I am going to learn a lot more in my coming days. So continue with your supervised practice, continue with your mentoring, study, research, self-study, reflective practice. I think reflection is very important. So case studies, peer supervision, talking to like-minded psychologists, very important. And just the ethics, cultural part of it, the diversity part of it, respect that. Respect the diverse populations that you're working with, whether they're youth athletes, they're elite athletes, whether you're working with a parent, a coach. You have to transform yourself in a way where you're good working with all of these different kinds of populations and different cultural competencies. So I think that would be my answer for the CPD aspect of things.
Yes, indeed, actually, I totally agree because, see, after working length and breadth of the nation and, working with all type of population, tribals, athletes from the rural backgrounds and, obviously urban tier 1, tier 2 cities, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, all athletes, I have seen them, I actually worked with them personally. So definitely that cultural twist is always there, that angle is there. And you may not, because whatever I have studied, the books were written by the foreign authors only. The articles I have studied, I hardly have seen. Recently, I have started like Neeru Jayanti, one of the researcher, written an article on early sports specialization. Sahin, I have seen written an article on resilience, actually published in one of the reputed journal. And he written a book also. So there are very few Indian origin psychologists I have seen who've done something in a sports psychology. Maybe I'm missing. If I'm missing, just correct me in the comment section also.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just not aware. I have not come across. I was sitting on my laptop just a moment ago before the session. I was editing the article only. So like 2 tabs are open and 1 tab Google, going through the article detail, the abstract and all. And other side, I was whatever I have written, how basically making sure that plagiarism is not there, that whatever the conclusion or results are, I have to put in my how can put that paragraph or line, words in my basically writing, and giving the all due credits
100%.
to all due credits to the researcher in the reference.
Yeah.
So CPD is, I think, one of the thing which very important, because the world is actually
Yeah.
going crazy on nuts, actually, seriously.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a good to have you first of all talking so openly, so loudly about
Thank you.
the differentiation, and maybe there hardly a similarity, but maybe some similar angle is the only angle which I see. The books we study come from the authors all sitting abroad,
Yeah.
and that is the similarity angle. But
Yeah. And
differentiation
I'm
is
not
one.
saying, again, I'm not saying abroad systems are the best. I'm not saying that. I'm only talking about the fact that they have a system today. That's all
They
I'm
have
saying.
it.
I'm not saying. All I'm saying is they
Maybe,
have the framework, they have the system. I'm not saying they might be the best. There's a
yeah,
lot that they also need to do. There's a lot that everyone needs to do, 100%. Only difference between us and them today is they have the framework, they have the system. We don't have that. We might develop even a better framework, even a better system. We don't know. But the point is that we need to develop a system, is all I say.
yeah. Actually, I don't know if you have seen that podcast with Gobinder Gill, Dr. Gobinder Gill,
Okay.
from he's from UK. Like how many? Five of you, like Dr. Mani Taroda was there, you and Sanka, Dr. Gobinder was there. I had done one podcast just a few days back only with him on emotional intelligence, and he told one very good thing about the framework, that there is a mental toughness framework, there is this framework, that framework is there in the cricket from more than 15 years now in UK.
Yeah.
So whatever England cricket board is, whatever they have done, they have that framework going on there. Maybe they're
Exactly.
updating it over the period of time with how the research is unfolding. They're updating it, but they have that framework. I
Exactly.
have never heard of any Indian organization, sporting federation, talking about a framework, adopting to a framework, or making
Exactly.
their workforce sit down. Okay, develop a framework for us. We want this framework of sports science or sports psychology or this or that XYZ.
Exactly.
So that framework
Exactly.
is definitely not something, not even a word, actually. I've not even heard of these people talking about framework. Anyways, so coming on
Yeah.
to the almost the end of the podcast, we have a lot of
Yeah.
things to discuss, but we have to summarize and conclude our podcast, this talk, uh, and hopefully we will see changes taking place. And I would
Yeah.
love to connect with you in the future as well. We will discuss something
100%.
else. We will have different plans. This is the for my audience, I want to tell, this is the last podcast or last episode of this year. I'm going to take off for a coming 3 or 4 months maybe, and next year in 2026 we'll come up with the new theme, with the new ideas, and till then, there are almost now more than 22 episodes are there on a podcast on YouTube. You can go and you can watch it. You can, if you enjoy, if you are learning, just let me know. And if there's any advice for me, you are most welcome, to drop message. Avoid any negative comments if possible. But anyways, all type of comments are. Anything, Gayatri, you want to add?
No, just thank you so much for giving me the platform to talk about this. And I think if we all come together and we're all on the same mind, we all have the same vision and the same passion for the sport for sure. So I think if we all come together, you all are senior sports psychologists in the country. I have just come back to the country, so I'm just starting off here. But if all of us come together and we have the same vision and we set up something that we truly believe in, I think there's a huge change that we can bring not only to the sport in our country, but to future generations of professionals in our industry and also for the athletes in our country. I think the onus lies on us, and let's see where we take it from there.
Any message for aspiring sports psychologist? And I think it would be great, actually, anybody who want to consult regarding the UK cases route, actually, how to get the license and registration, they can approach Gayatri, and she may help, to get that
Yeah,
licenses.
yeah,
And
100%.
yes, yes. So once
Yeah, so
again, thank you
just
so much, Gayatri.
leaving message. Yeah, yeah, you're most
Yeah, yeah.
welcome. And just a leaving message for potential sports psychologists would be just use the right title, guys. I know the pathway is not easy. That's not your fault. It's a systemic error, but use the right titles. Use the title of a mental skills coach. Use the title of a performance psychologist. Even after 3 years of doing a master's degree, I was using a title of a mental skills coach. I only started using a title of a sport and exercise psychologist when I had that registration. So use the right titles. Use the title of a performance psychologist, a sports psychology consultant, and that would only build trust and credibility with the athletes, with the parent, with the organizations, and it'll just bring respect to our profession globally and around the world. So that's all I would like to say. And yeah, good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gayatri, for giving your time. And once again, go like, subscribe, and share the podcast on YouTube. It is there, Spotify. You can listen to the audio if you don't have time. Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook, we have pages. You can go, you can find the information over there as well. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.